Hi. You might be thinking, wow, Chai, you're really pale today. Or, wow, you have a lot more hair than normal. Well, if you can't tell, I'm not Chai. My name is Alex, along with Jiwon, who is currently sitting behind the camera. We work on the Warm Intro podcast with Chai.
While we're working on this next batch of episodes, we thought it'd be a good idea to sit down and do a bit of a retrospective on the season that we just put out. Kind of like an autopsy on the podcast. Everything that we'd gotten right, everything we'd gotten wrong, all the weirdest things that the guests did off camera. Just kind of a cold outro on the first season of Warm Intro.
Chai has been at WeFunder, working with me and Jiwon for probably around close to 8 months at this point. And even just coming in, he is so warm and so insightful.
I sat down with our editor, Alex Seiko, and we had a free-flowing conversation. Alex did not tell me the questions beforehand, as you will be able to tell very soon. And it made for a really fun and fruitful conversation.
And I fully intend to use our friendship for my own monetary gain, and for him to give me furniture from The Essential. With that, I bring you Chyler Mishra. I know we wanted to get me and Jiwon, who is the other producer who unfortunately couldn't be here, on to give a retrospective of the season, ask some questions on Chai, so the 250 people at home can get to know you a little bit better. They've been calling in.
A couple of them are out sick right now. I think it's only 248.
Yeah. They've been calling in. They've been blowing up our email. They want to know the real, the real Chyan, the real Chyler Mishra.
Yeah.
What's it called? So we want to give that to the people at home who demand of it.
Yes.
So, Chai, tell me, what were the dinner table conversations like around the Mishra family household dinner table?
Yeah, God. I don't even know. I don't know how many of these questions are going to be of this category.
Verbatim questions you've asked our guests?
Verbatim questions that I like reflexively ask every single person. But I'm gonna answer all of them earnestly. Okay. So dinner table conversations in my family is going to come as a surprise to just about anyone listening to this. I am the quietest member of my family. I am considered a deep, problematically introverted person in my family. Mm-hmm. That's how much conversation there was. So the first, I think, really important thing at our house was that there were dinner table conversations. Mm-hmm. It was for 3 times a day. My dad would drive back. His office was close by, and he would drive back for lunch every single day.
Wow, yeah.
And he would eat with us, and then he would go back. So it was one of the few rules my parents really held in sacred light was that we all had to sit down and we couldn't be on our phones and we couldn't be looking at the TV, and we would sit and talk as a family. So that's the first thing, is there were table conversations. The other thing was they were really funny. One thing I think I learned pretty early growing up and with my parents, the people that they are, is that we were allowed to make fun of them.
Yeah.
But it had to be funny. Mm-hmm. That if we made fun of my dad, but it wasn't funny, we would get scolded.
Yeah.
But if I could get him or my mom to crack up, then anything goes. So you could say just about anything as long as it was funny or insightful or interesting. But the minute you missed that mark, all of a sudden they would go right back to being kind of regular parents. And we talked about just about everything, but I think the big topics for us were always politics, which I think comes through in the podcast a lot. We would talk about sports a lot, like a lot of families. And then I think probably the number one topic of conversation were other people. Mm-hmm. We were constantly discussing relatives, or if somebody had just been over at our house, all the things that they said that were weird. So it was a lot of that. And we just would kind of shoot the shit. That was a big part of growing up in our household.
No, yeah. White parents. I feel like even amongst peers, I had a very low power distance between me and my parents. Mm-hmm. People are shocked. It's I call my parents mom, dad, whatever.
Yeah.
I also sometimes refer to my parents by their first names, which people get people have
amazing.
Visceral reactions to.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Shout out Chris Judy. Genuinely, it was very much nothing was no holds barred. I could dunk on Chris, and even if it was
Really?
Yeah, they thought I was so lame.
My
Whereas
parents
like,
think I'm lame too.
like my dad was like a frat guy. My mom like ran cross country. They were like cool. They both went to like Rutgers, a state school.
Yeah.
They were drinking, they were partying. And then like I didn't start drinking till sophomore year of college.
Yeah.
So it's like I
What a
didn't
loser.
drink. Yeah, honestly, my dad was like, if you want like drinks, if you want like cigarettes, if you want like drugs, like let me know. Like I'll get you stuff for college, and like they'll be like so you can fit in with the cool kids. And I was like, no, Dad, I just want to go and I want to work, I want to study.
Yeah. This is actually something I can really relate to. My parents, I was a pretty introverted kid growing up, and I was kind of, I liked being alone, and I like was pretty quiet. And my parents' number one motivation, like I think they were pretty confident. They're like, he's gonna work hard and he's gonna like stay out of trouble. Their number one motivation was they didn't want their kids to be uncool.
Yeah.
And it was so important for them that my sister and I be social and that we be very, very outgoing. That was like, I would say that's like the central ethic that they kind of drilled into us. And same for your parents.
Yeah. Okay. So you left them. You left the country.
Yes.
So tell me about kind of both your, I think you've touched on this in a couple of the episodes, but your kind of decision making around moving to the U.S. And why it was that if you were going to set up a life somewhere, you chose to do it here.
Yeah. That's a great question. I really liked living in India, and I think I grew up in a really special time.
Yeah.
It was sort of immediately it was early 90s, post-liberalization India. So all of a sudden everybody was kind of quitting their job at the government and starting a company. My dad did the same thing. So I liked it. And so I wasn't fleeing great hardship or anything like that. I had a good life. I think I had this great sense that a lot of immigrants will sort of describe of feeling like where I wasn't the center of the universe. And I wanted to be wherever that was. So I wanted to be in the center of the action.
Yeah.
I didn't want to feel like there's this thing that you kind of get in just about every country. I've been lucky to go to a few now. And just about every country has some sort of central narrative. And every city has this for why they're the greatest country and this is truly the greatest civilization and why this is the place everybody should be at. You can kind of squint enough to come up with that story for just about any country. Yeah. But there was a strong feeling I had that like there was one place where that was objectively true. Even for places and people that hate America, it's hard to deny that America runs the world. And I, for one, always loved America. And so I think that it was this combination of wanting to be where the center of the action was, that you could be at the best university in your town, in your country, or you could be in the best university in the world. You could be starting a company in the Silicon Valley of India, or you could be starting a company in the Silicon Valley of Silicon Valley. And so I wanted to not give myself these sort of false narratives of grandeur and come up with these kind of like, artificially constructed reasons for why the place I was at mattered. But instead I wanted to go to a place that I think was undeniably the center of the action. So that was the big thing. And then... So that's how I decided, and I decided at 15 that I wanted to do that. And I told my parents, I had a conversation with them, and I said, hey, look, I remember exactly, and this I think that came into practice then, I pulled up the U.S. News and World Report list of universities in the world. And for anyone, any Indian person listening to this knows that IITs are kind of the be-all, end-all. And at 15, I printed out the list, and I showed it to my parents. And I said, hey, so this is the list. The first Indian university, the first IIT that even shows up on this list is number 42.
Yeah.
I wanted at the time become an engineer, a mechanical engineer. And I was like, this is the top of the list. If I can get into one of these top 3 schools, will you let me go? And I don't even think they took it seriously at the time because I was 15.
Yeah. And
they were like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I held them to it.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, I'm guessing this might be a question you were planning to ask. For the next 2 years, all I cared about was getting into Berkeley.
Yeah.
And I would basically cut class at school, leave and go study for the SAT, just prepare for the SAT. And I had one goal, which was to get into Berkeley. I got into Berkeley. I basically didn't care about any other school.
Yeah.
I accepted 7 seconds after I got in, and the rest is the rest.
Well, you can read my mind because I do have a question asking you about
Sure.
school. But first, okay, you spent so much time studying on the SAT. What'd you get?
I got a 2200. This was for the brief moment where it was out of 2400.
Yeah.
But can I brag real quick? I did get a perfect score on the SAT 2s in all three of the ones I took.
Okay, wow. Because was English spoken at all in your household, or did you have to take the SAT in English? Did you teach yourself English to go to school in the U.S.? Like, how did that kind of come?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think like it kind of touches on how I talk.
Yeah.
You know? So everyone in India knows some level of English,
Yeah.
and it's incorporated into the language in a way that I think is hard for anybody on the outside to realize.
Yeah.
I would say when you hear somebody speaking in Hindi or what appears to be Hindi, when you really pay attention, it's like every third or fourth word is already English. So like most Indian people have a decent vocabulary already, but I wasn't speaking English conversationally. Truck just went past. I wasn't speaking English conversationally until I would say like senior year of high school.
Yeah.
And it didn't become my sort of primary language until I moved to the US. The weird thing for me was with the SAT, most people around me tend to do really well in the math section. Indian people tend to do really well in the math section and kind of struggle in the reading and writing. I was way better. I got a perfect score on the writing section.
Yeah.
And the reading was also like, I think my reading and math were equal. So yeah, it's a long way of saying like, I just was always fascinated by language. And I think when I started to understand how the SAT worked, I just sort of fell in love with it. I just fell in love with like, these were all new concepts. They weren't taught to us in school, but just like how you write an essay or like how you decode a paragraph that's given to you. So I think it became fun for me. Language became fun for me. And I think that's probably how I learned. And then in addition to that, going back to how America runs the world in good and bad ways, I grew up in American TV shows. So I was always like, even now, I think I sound sometimes like I'm doing an impression of somebody on a TV show, or I'm doing an impression of somebody giving a speech. But that's just because that's how I learned to speak a lot of English, at least American English. So yeah, it was a combination of me always loving language and falling in love with how these tests work. Yeah, because it's so different from what we were being tested on in India. And then the other thing just being that was the culture around me. I grew up on Friends and How Much Your Mother and et cetera, et cetera.
No, because I obviously went to like a institution in New Jersey in the U.S. And it's like so myopically focused on. It's not like something you're doing almost like analyzing paragraphs and essays almost as like a side extracurricular. You're interested in it. It's just so ingrained, and it's like this is how you consider a like piece of writing as it's going to be asked on the PSAT or the SAT or the GRE. It's especially in like middle school, high school. It's so focused. It's like teach to the test. Yeah. It's like they teach you to be able to then do well on the SAT. And so it's interesting that that's it differs from the way you kind of had to come to the basically like the tests. You weren't being like, you weren't in class like 8 hours a day, basically just doing what is akin to SAT prep.
No, this is a really critical point as how much, how different the world is in this regard. I really struggled when I got to America too. When I got to Berkeley, I was terrible at it because it was the way that you are taught is so different in India than from how you're taught over here. Education in India, my mom's a teacher. It was really centered around sort of just ingesting facts as much as you could. It's not really built around helping somebody develop systems of thinking or systems of sort of comprehension and explaining yourself, all that. It's really centered around rote learning. And so to be able to take the SAT and to be able to get like a decent score enough to get into Berkeley required actually changing how I thought about tests, changing how I thought about information. Yeah.
So you very famously went to Berkeley. You love talking about I'm sure you would agree, one of your, I don't know, favorite questions to ask, but if you do like the most often question asked is how someone got into school.
Yeah.
So do you think it's because you think that's an interesting like part of a person's story, or do you think you personally like index very highly on like education, and that would, because it was so important in your life, you're just like interested in on like how people got to that point?
I think it's definitely the former. I personally put very little weight on what school somebody went to. I think that part of it, I just don't think it matters that much.
You wouldn't be able to tell that from our guest list. Is what
I put a lot of weight on how they got into that school,
Yeah.
which to me is different from what school they actually ended up going to.
Yeah.
To me, you could replace Stanford with Harvard, with MIT, and any of those questions that I've asked. I think it would be the same. I think and part of this is because I can't afford to care
Yeah.
about what school somebody went to because I dropped out. I never finished, and so I have fewer degrees than anyone we've had on the podcast. So to me, what is much more interesting than the specifics of what dorm they lived at Harvard or whatever they're called over there. To me, what's much more interesting is that just about everybody we've had on has achieved a lot at a pretty young age, and I think that there is a tendency that young successful people have to present their success as being sort of serendipitous.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and then this startup idea hit me over the head, or my friend said this thing that's inspired me to. What I think they are lying about, most very young, successful people are lying about just how goddamn ambitious they were from a very, very, very young age, and how like hungry they were for success. I don't think that those are bad words, but I think that is just how most people think. And so when I ask that question, the thing that's interesting to me is I'm trying to see if I can kind of get behind the curtain a little bit on this V12 engine of an ambition that they have sitting there that they're not wanting to admit. They want to act like their success is, and I don't think this is because they're bad people. I just think that this is how our culture is. We all want to act like our success is some combination of sort of like just being at the right place at the right time, and also just these like circumstances that like the kind of macroeconomic circumstances, whatever. And I think that's all true. There's a big component of luck, but I think what people don't want to talk about often, what I try to get at with that question is just how like crazy hungry and ambitious you need to be to achieve as much as any of our guests have achieved by the young age that they're at.
Yeah, cool. To shift more into the actual like episodes and the podcast itself, rather than straight interview of you. Obviously, we talk behind the camera on. We do basically like a handicapping of most episodes, what went well, like what we think we can improve for the next episode, what questions we liked, what questions we didn't like. In your mind, what leads to a good episode of Warm Intro? What do you say is like, oh, these things are either pillars or on a scorecard make an episode something like you consider good?
There's a set of things that I can sort of articulate and that I can maybe even measure. And then there's just a feeling that you have about an episode after it's done. I'll talk about the set that you can kind of, like the stuff that we can articulate. I think that if I find that the guest is going to places that are a little bit uncomfortable for them to talk about, when a guest says to me almost accidentally, oh man, I've never talked about this, or like, oh man, this is kind of weird, or like, any version of that, whether they say it on camera or off camera, I feel good.
Yeah.
I'm happy because I want to start to put them in territory that because the thing that I strongly believe about everyone, but especially about people who do a lot of sort of press and have to like talk for a living, is you can, in a drunken stupor, deliver the story of how you started your company. In a drunken stupor, you can kind of deliver the story of the hardest moment running your company, whatever. Like, there are these core stories that everybody asks you, and you've told them so many times that you could be thinking about like monster trucks and the stock market and be delivering this sort of monologue, right?
Yeah.
So I want to try to break them out of that as much as possible, and to do that, I want to ask them the kind of the weirdest questions that I can ask. But if you go too weird with it, then they get into a different place where then they become defensive, and then they're not sort of. So you have to sort of do it in this more gradual way.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I'm looking at is, did they share a moment? Did they share a feeling? Did they talk about stuff that I haven't heard them talk about anywhere else?
Yeah.
That's kind of the first thing that I'm looking at. The second thing that I'm looking at is, do I feel like we came out of the conversation giving a full, clear picture of how this person thinks? I'm not really interested in making them look good or bad.
Yeah.
All I care about is that these are interesting people. Most of them I tend to like. I want the viewer to come out of it feeling like, okay, I get how this person's brain works.
Yes.
I get the parts of the brain that are where the water flows choppy, right? Where this person obviously has a bias. We've had, I think, examples of that in our episodes where you see, and it's not my job to push on it. It's just for all of us to kind of see, like, okay, this is a good person. They're sincere in their thinking, but this is a place where they just have a bias. Mm-hmm. And then the other parts where they're like, oh no, this person has a weird talent for understanding this one part of life that like most people in their industry or maybe in the world don't understand. So that's the second thing I care about. Firstly, like, it's just me observing the guest and trying to understand, does it feel like they went to places they haven't been to before? And then the second is this kind of feeling that I think the viewer, and I'm also a viewer of the conversation, should have about it, which is, okay, do I understand the person? So those are the two things I can articulate. Does the guest feel uncomfortable, and then does the viewer feel like they understood what was going on, or how this person's brain works? Then there's the sort of the hard to articulate thing, which to me is just, there's a way that a good conversation feels that I am not smart enough to describe, and I don't think anybody is. And sometimes I leave one of these conversations feeling like we hit it, and sometimes I feel like we didn't. And maybe after like a couple hundred episodes, I'll be able to define it better. But there's just a feeling that you leave after a good conversation, and it's some mix of warmth and excitement and like, I don't know, nostalgia for stories that you weren't even there for, like that kind of thing. And I'm looking for that, and that's just like a gut check. But those are the things I look for.
One of them you like to say all the time, that they now tell a story, but like they do a press junket, they talk to media, like, oh, they tell a story now all the time. That was a story that I like.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
That they said they had never told before, and now they're out there.
Now this is their like core story that they go to. Yeah.
Hey. They're figuring out how to monetize Warm Intro better than we can monetize Warm Intro. It's fucked up.
That's funny.
Also, future guests, try make sure it wants to make you uncomfortable. But do you ever wish, like, after the camera stopped rolling, like, damn, I wish I could have asked this person, like, one more, or like after watching the episode, like, I wish I could have pushed here, or I wish I could have asked this question, or like, oh, I think we spent too much time on this. I wish I could have dug into this other line more deeply.
Yeah, I about little things, I'll have that. But as you're asking me, I'm realizing I don't really think that way very often about the episodes. And I'm sure some more experienced interviewer is going to listen to this and realize that I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But to me, it's, I don't know. I heard Dave Chappelle about they asked him like, oh, okay, when you record a special and then a week later some big news story happens, do you feel bad? Do you wish that you could have asked about that, or do you wish you could have talked about it? And he said, no, it's like when I see an old photo, I don't get angry that the photo is not from today. Yeah. And that's how I feel about these conversations, that all it is sort of an honest depiction of a moment in time for the two people met up, and this is how this person that matters more in this episode, this is how this person's brain was working at the time. Yeah. Right? And then it's on the audience to go and look up how that person's company is doing or how their campaign's going and why they were so defensive on this topic or that topic or whatever, or why this didn't get brought up, all of that. So to me, all I want to get to is a good snapshot of that person in that moment. So I don't care too much about, did I hit this topic or not? Like, there's too much fucking content out there, man. Like, everything's going to get asked at some point if you're famous enough. So all I care about is, like, did I get one good, pure conversation out that reveals who the person is? You say that, like, one of our, like, last, like, 12 guests is going to, like, come out to be, like, some, like, deeply evil person. It's just going to bring us all down with them. Dude, after this, we should discuss who's most likely to do that. Okay. We'll bleep it out. Let's test out our beeping technology.
Okay.
Who do you think it's going to be? For sure. if there's one person that's going to cause like truly irreparable damage to the world, I can't say too much. It's probably him. I revealed now. I guess it's not because I said him, but yeah, no, definitely him. Yeah.
Dream guest. If you could have someone on, whether it be like personally or just like aspirationally, like who would you love to just sit down and like have like a hour and a half long conversation with?
Dead or alive?
Sure. Why not?
Anthony Bourdain.
Okay, and
I
then
think if I'm doing alive,
yeah, so someone I can actually send an email to after this.
I don't know, like Paul Kagame, dictator of Rwanda.
What additive do you thing you would unlock in that conversation?
I'd be really curious to see how he sets his moral compass.
Yeah, like, hey man, why did you do this?
Well, with that also, but like I just think that he's a much more complicated figure than I think people on either side want to give him sort of credit for. So somebody like that, I think, would be interesting. Yeah, I mean that's kind of a half joking answer, but there is truth to it. I think, yeah. I would. Oh, another historical figure I would love to have is Lee Kuan Yew. Very interesting. You know, the benevolent dictator of Singapore, basically, right? I don't know. I'm fascinated by dictators. I guess.
Hey, we do have a lot of politicians on the podcast.
Yeah, no dictators yet.
Well,
but,
one day, who knows? Maybe Shoykot or Ethan or Mike Lawler will just be like the benevolent dictator of New York or California.
But I think serious answer is Anthony Bourdain. I don't think this podcast would exist without Anthony Bourdain. I think a lot of my life, a lot of my career would look very different without Anthony Bourdain. I think that all you have to do is watch a TV show or watch a travel show pre-Bourdain and watch and watch one of his episodes to understand his contribution to the world. Just there was a type of discourse, there was a way of understanding other people that I had never seen on camera before until he came onto the scene. So if there's one person I would love to interview, it would be Anthony Bourdain.
Okay, that's season 2. We'll have like a seance.
We'll do an AI Anthony Bourdain.
We'll do like an AI replica.
That would be the thing we would truly get canceled for. I would cancel us for that.
We just start talking to like, new theme for the show, just AI replicas of dead people, and just like put words in their mouth, make them say, just ascribe things to that. Just like,
can I ask you? Well, who would you want me to interview?
I should have prepared more, knowing this is such an easily reflective question to ask back to me. I don't know. I know, like, we get a little not like flack externally, but like flack within like where we work for doing so many politicians. I just find like some of those to be like some of the most interesting conversations we've had. It's so I feel like I don't know, like give me. This is hard. I don't know. I'm trying to think of someone like more interesting, but like an AOC, like a Ro Khanna, like or like even more in like the pundit class, like a Cenk Uygur, or like just like this. Like I just think those conversations have like tended to be like kind of like very fruitful and interesting. Like Barry Weiss. Like I would love
Barry Weiss would be interesting
to just see you like talk. I just find the Free Press is like such an interesting organization, especially and now she's been voiced into like such a like seat of prominence. Just like would love to just like, and she has been doing a lot of like media lately. So,
but just she's based in San Francisco. We should hit her up.
Is she based in San Francisco?
I think she is.
Damn.
We'll see if
Barry Weiss.
If season 2, if you end up seeing Barry Weiss, you'll know how it started.
Cool. And last question. When we were kind of doing both the inception of the show and first few episodes, we had talked a lot about the thesis of Warm Intro, both internally with ourselves and justifying it to the company at large. I know a lot of what we put on our like marketing materials websites, best conversation at a dinner party, deep, thoughtful conversation with interesting, successful XYZ people. One, how do you think the thesis of Warm Intro has changed from episode 1 to episode 10, just as we've been doing for 3 months? And on a go-forward basis, how do you see the thesis of the show kind of evolving as we continue to do more of these interviews?
The way that the show has changed. When I was starting off, I really thought that it was going to be a much more founder-centric, a much more startup-centric show. And it is still that. That is still our kind of like go-to calling card. We will always have more founders than we have of any other category person. But I found that there's just there's something a little more universal to the experience of kind of building something. And it applies to a lot more people than just founders. That to me, this is there's a way in which an aspiring political candidate feels about their campaign, or a street artist feels about their first mural, that is very similar to how a startup founder feels about their company, right? All the ways in which it's precious, all the ways in which it makes them insecure, all the ways in which it keeps them up at night, all of that is actually pretty consistent. So that's the first way in which I think it's shifted. In a very tactical and observable way, it's much less centered around startups and founders than I thought it would be. That's number one. I think that the second thing, and this has been, I think, the part of the show that is most in tension, and I don't actually have an answer yet, is the places where we've had to wrestle with sort of algorithmic best practice, right? That we have this sensibility on the show of like a good conversation kind of bends your concept of time a little bit. You lose yourself in a good conversation. And when you're done with it, you actually don't know if it's been 30 minutes or like 2.5 hours. You have no idea, right? And I think that that's great. And those are the kinds of conversations we've been trying to have. But then we're realizing as we're putting them out there that that's not what the media ecosystem today is built for at all.
First, like and subscribe.
Yes, please. If you would like to see more long-form conversations like that bend your sense of time, please like and subscribe. But we're finding that, so we kind of constantly get this push from viewers, from friends of ours to be like, oh, throw in a sizzle reel, or you should do more quick cuts. You should throw in more B-roll. And honestly, that's just a thing that's in tension right now, is making something that we think should exist, which is this kind of slow-moving, time-bending conversation style with what the algorithm wants and rewards, which is, I think, if you can hook them in the first 3 seconds and then beat them over the head with visual changes and quick cuts. So that's intention, is what we want to make versus what we think performs the best. So that's, I think, the second point. And then the third thing that I've realized, I think, to go back to the thesis of it, is I've learned a lot about how human beings talk, how I talk. It's a very strange experience. If you ever want to feel weird about your interactions with human beings, do a podcast and then just go through the experience of talking for an hour and a half and then sitting at home and listening to it for over 4.5 hours over and over and over again.
I'm not emotionally prepared to hear my voice in this mic or see myself.
Great, Alex.
I'm not going to help you edit.
You're not going to help edit this at all.
At all.
That's hilarious.
This is the one episode I will never watch.
That's hilarious. But it's a very strange experience. And I have learned a lot about how human beings talk and how they think. Because this is not something I expected. I'll just linger on point number 3 for a bit. I didn't expect the conversations that I have on the show to feel like real conversations to me. I knew they would to everybody else, maybe even to the guests, but I felt like I would be in my own head and I wouldn't be experiencing them as a conversation that I'm a part of. And I was wrong about that. That as I've been, there was, a couple of guests in the first season started tearing up, and I had never sat that close to another person and watch their eyes well up and start to kind of start to spill over, and heard their voice crack. I'd never seen it at such like a close microscopic level, and I've learned about like how early on in the conversation, early on in when they're speaking, the emotionality starts to bubble up, the weird things that will make people angry, right? And the things that people do, the verbal tics that people use to sort of control their anger, because you have to be a person and you can't lose your shit every 5 minutes. So it's just been very, very, very interesting to see the sort of the full complexity of these people.
Yeah.
And to get to sit, a foot and a half away from them and just like look at their face through all of this. I think that's been really fun. So the thesis of the show, I think, the ways in which change, number one, it's much less about founders than I thought it would originally be. Number two, I think we're still figuring out how to wrangle the algorithm. And then number three, I think that the conversations are, I understand my job differently now.
Yeah.
I think my job at first, I thought it was going to be much more about what people say. And now I think the show is much more about how they say it. So I think going deeper and deeper into that. So what you can expect now from, to your last question, what you can expect from season 2 is, I think, more weirder types of guests. I want to have on basically any strange profession that you can imagine. I want to have somebody on that lives a life that would be interesting to people, but maybe you haven't thought a lot about. So we're going to go way wider with the types of guests we have. We are going to continue our struggles with the algorithm. But number three, we're going to lean much, much more heavily into the sort of the strange quirks of a person and how they think and how they talk, and much less into specific tactics and what are 5 ways in which you grew your business. I think that's just fundamentally uninteresting.
Yeah.
And there's enough of that out there already.
Yeah.
So it's about how the conversation makes you feel and how the person thinks. And I think I did not understand that when I was starting the show. And the more that I've understood that, I think the more fun I've been having with it.
Nice. I will say, while you were saying that, I was pondering a prior question. Which of our guests is most likely to end the world? And let's prep that beeping technology again.
Okay.
Oh, it's definitely like.
Oh, well, he wasn't a guest though.
Yeah, but he's okay.
Yeah. No, he has like an evil genius.
He has a
tendency. Yeah.
And maybe we can cut this, but I was just thinking, I'm like, not even non-guests, just people in the Worm and Joe orbit. I'm like that.
No. You are 100% right, and I'm gonna have him on just because you said that. I'll just say this to camera. We are going to have on in the second season a guest who Alex believes is extremely likely to end the world. Okay, I'm not going to say who it is, but it is now on the viewer to watch every single episode and try to guess who it is.
Is that our hook to try and...
That's our hook, is one of the guests we will have on is going to end the world, and it's on you to figure out who it is.
Well, Chai Mishra.
Alex Seiko, thank you. That was awesome, man. That was so much fun. Thanks, Alex. That was beautiful. I didn't have an ending for that sentence when I started it. Sorry. Sorry. This one is going to be it. Don't even stop it, G1. Don't even stop it.
Fuck, no, I'm going to kill everyone. Okay. Including you. You're also dying, G1. Don't stop recording. You might be saying, wow. No, fuck, I didn't want to say your name. Death to G1. D1 dies. D1, use your head against the frame TV.